afternoon, West Ham fans. Rush to the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. Happy Monday. Would have been a happier Monday. Just one more goal. One more goal. And I think I'd have been really happy. But respect the points. It's Newcastle, 26 points to go. And international break. What more can we look forward to? There we go. But keep an eye on the channel because we've got loads of stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks to keep you guys entertained. But it's Hammer's headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. Not one, not two, not three, but four quattro stories for you guys, you lucky bastards. And a bit of everything, bit of transfer rumour news, bit of a bit of team news, all that type of stuff, and a bit about the West Ham women as well. Let's start off with the main story, the story that's dominated everything, apart from obviously the Newcastle game over the weekend. The news broke on Saturday night that Jarrod Bowen had verbally agreed a contract with the club, and that was then confirmed last night quite randomly. I thought the timing was a bit random. It'd be interesting. I wonder what would have happened if we'd lost yesterday, whether they would have still put it out at whatever it was, 6:30, 7:00, or whether they would have maybe held it back until today. But anyway, it was officially revealed by the club that Jarrod had signed a 6.5-year deal or /7-year deal, which would take him up to 2030 contracted with the West Ham faithful. Now, in terms of there was a lot of conflicting reports about that in terms of obviously this contract has taken a while to get to where to get to the sign bit and to get to the the picture. You'll see the thumbnail, Tim Steindon, signing with Bowen, but it's and the main sticking points I think were around the not necessarily the salary, but in terms of a release clause, and effectively a very very low release clause would have probably meant that he would go in January or in the summer without much of a problem. But according to several sources, including Claret and Hugh, who get an exclusive comment from David Sullivan, he says that it's without a buyout clause. An ex-WHU employee confirms that as well. So what are we to be believed? According to Claret and Hugh, they say that it's going to be worth £6.5 million a year, which puts him on £125,000 a week, which is a nice little bump on his current or the deal that he had day before yesterday. So I don't know if he's almost doubled his money, but I thought he was on 60, 70 grand then or something like that. So maybe a little bit more, but still, it makes him the highest earner, or in the highest earner bracket at West Ham, which is the top, which is 125 grand. So they believe Danny Ings, and I think Zuma's on as well, and I think Areola as well. I think. In all honesty, a 7-year contract for someone who's, in his mid-20s could see him through to the end of his career at West Ham. Indeed, he mentioned that in his sort of interview with the announcement, saying he's happy to stay here for the rest of his life. So, or the rest of his football career, not the rest of his life, but you know what I mean. But according to Claret, who the deal was actually brokered by Sullivan on his own this Tuesday, apparently, and he's been working on the contract ever since. So apparently, Bowen left a meeting with Sullivan, just him and Sullivan, and I imagine an agent, explaining that he wanted time to think over things, and then that didn't last long, and he came back and said loved the club and wanted to commit fully. Now, Budden's take on this. He or should not be named the former captain, number 41, never had a buyout clause on his contract, did he? And indeed refused a new deal. I think it was a 7 or 8 year deal he was offered then, sort of 2 years ago, which he turned down. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a gentleman's agreement in place, because there could be. Because there was a gentleman's agreement in place with Declan Rice, in terms of if a club offered a certain number, we would let him go. And that could happen again, with Bowen. It's like, if it might not be an official contract, buyout clause, but there may be a gentleman's agreement in place. We don't know, and that's between Bowen and his agent and the chairman. But to have gone from having no, a small buyout clause to a big buyout clause to having no buyout clause so quickly. I think there's something else in play here. But look, at the end of the day, on paper, fantastic. 7 year, you could see the rest of his career at West Ham, and he's in absolutely fine form. Obviously, he's away with England this 2 weeks. We wish him all the best and wish he comes back not injured, which means I'll have to actually watch the England games now when he plays to make sure he doesn't get injured. Although, that's going to make any difference. Regardless of the Bowen deal, there's obviously we are looking at our January transfer targets, and one player who we have been linked with recently is the Real Madrid winger, Brahma Diaz. And apparently, according to my favourite media outlet in Spain, Fajas, we are looking at him as a real possibility to come in January, and who he's seriously considering leaving the Bernabeu as well. We know that we need more quality in the attack. That's for sure. And I think we probably need, in all honesty, more quality on the wings. We've got obviously Kudus comes in. I think Kudus came in and played almost like a 10 or an 8 yesterday when he came off the bench. I think that's probably his best position. But I think that left-hand side needs some addressing. Having Lucas Paqueta there isn't the right option. It's all right to do now, but it's not the right option going forward. And someone like Diaz who can play on both wings is a real interesting option. I mean, Los Blancos paid an initial £15.5 million for Diaz to sign from Man City in January 2019. He has struggled to make an impact, which is why he's probably on the horizon for various sides who want to buy him at a relatively cut price deal. I mean, I think Real Madrid actually sent him out on loan to AC Milan, and he returned. I think it was a 2-year deal. He was out there on a 2-year loan. He established himself well there. Played in the Serie A side. They won the league in the 21-22 season, and then returned to Spain to take up a role in the first team. He actually signed a new deal, which tied him down until the summer of 2027. However, he has had a lack of first team opportunities, and the creative midfielder is now considering a change of scenery. And that scenery could be back in the Premier League. He's 24. He's only played 107 minutes in La Liga this season. So it sort of shows why he's looking for some more game time, particularly with a Euros coming on the horizon as well. So a move in January and, to get plaudits in the Premier League in 6 or 7, 4 or 5 months he's on the peripherals of the Spanish squads potentially, so it could mean he could go into the Spanish squad for the Euros potentially. As I said, we are looking at him as a potential option by all accounts, and would definitely add to our suite of wingers we need to very much improve on. One consequence of the Bowen deal, of the Bowen contract, is potentially Liverpool are looking at Diaz as well. So they'll have 2 Diaz's. One on the left, one on the right, particularly if Mo Salah leaves for the Saudi Pro League, which is what they're believing to have happened. So, Brahma Diaz is rapid, very quick. He's very diminutive, so he's a nightmare for defenders because he's got a very low sort of center of gravity, very similar to Bowen actually. And I think he loves to take players on one-to-one, and I think we would really like a player like Diaz. Obviously, he played. He was good at Man City, but obviously City saw that maybe they could move him on quite ruthlessly, which is what they do with most of their players. Eventually, don't they? The likes of Gabriel Jesus and people like that. They Mahrez. They're happy to move on and bring in younger models, so to speak, or different types of players. So keep an eye out for January and see what happens with Brahma Diaz. Another player we've been linked with is, and we've actually been scouting apparently, is the Wigan Athletic central defender, Charlie Hughes. Wigan are currently 23rd in League One, but Charlie, who's 19, has impressed for Wigan, despite having a tough start to life back in the 3rd tier for Wigan. He's been a key player for Sean Malone's side this season, and according to several sources, the Hammers have been sending scouts to watch him in action so far this season. this sort of, to me, is a similar thing to the whole Ronnie Edwards type thing at Peterborough. Looking to buy in young English centre backs at a reasonable price, who can then develop. Obviously, he's 19. He made his league debut against Middlesbrough in December and has since made 36 appearances. He scored a couple of goals, I think 3 goals and 2 assists. So, he's been a regular for the Latics this season. And as well as, obviously he came through their academy. And as I said, he was handed his first professional contract back in 2021. So as I said, he's 16. He's got a deal actually in place until June 2028. So we're going to under no pressure to cash in and sell him. However, if we, it might be hard to stand in his way if West Ham come calling, whether it's in January, whether it's in the summer. But we have apparently been sending out scouts to keep an eye on Charlie. And lastly, the West Ham women got their first points of the season, a 2-0 victory away at Brighton. We love beating Brighton now, innit? Everyone can do it now. But yeah, a 2-0 victory away at Brighton for Skinner's side. Obviously, they lost their first game of the season to Man City. It was, similar to the men's side in terms of Man City. Let's just say that in terms of how they play. Couple of goals. Smith and Rico scored. A great strike from Rico. And to be honest, could have been some more actually. Could have been easily more. But that was great to see. We'll be bringing you a lot more content of women's game coming up shortly. So throughout the season, so keep an eye on that as well. Incidentally, if you are at a loose end, their next game is actually on Wednesday at the Chigwell Construction Centre Stadium. Obviously, Dagenham Redbridge is ground. They're playing Charlton, so a return to Kate Longhurst, potentially, who is now signed for Charlton, friend of the channel, Kate Longhurst. They play Charlton in the Continental League Cup. It's £5 for adults and £1 for juniors. 7:30 kickoff, and it's a great night out. It's a great game to go and watch. It's with all the money and glamour of the Premier League, the Women's Super League still has that sort of, it's not nostalgic view, but you can particularly playing at a smaller ground as well. It's great fun, great crowd, and it's a good way to get the kids into it as well and get kids into football. Particularly my daughter, she loves going to seeing the West Ham women play, and for £1. Absolute bloody bargain. Anyway, keep an eye on the channel. Loads of stuff as always coming up. A few cheeky interviews. We've got some lovely game shows as well over this international break for the Iron Sporting Food Banks, all that good stuff. And also check out kneesonmybrow.com for all the latest news, views, and opinions. And until next time, my friends, take care, stay safe, stay warm. Actually, you don't have to worry about staying warm. It's still nice, isn't it? It's still nice. I was in my shorts yesterday at West Ham, and I didn't look like an idiot. Mental, innit? Anyway, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, my friends. Come on, you bloody irons, and Bowen's on fire.